Have you ever pondered on the concept of purity and holiness? What does it truly mean to be pure and holy? Does it lie in one's outward appearance, or is it a condition of the heart? In the teachings of Christ, we find a profound exploration of these questions. Take, for instance, the narratives of the healing of the Phoenician girl and the deaf mute. These stories carry a depth of wisdom, revealing the true essence of purity and holiness. In ancient times, the Jews saw themselves as the only purified and holy people, regarding the Gentiles as unclean. However, Christ sought to challenge this notion. He demonstrated that there are no inherently clean or unclean individuals, rather the purity of the heart is what matters most. The story of the Phoenician girl serves as a perfect example. When her mother, a Phoenician woman, heard about Christ, she approached him, seeking healing for her daughter who was possessed by an unclean spirit. Christ initially appeared reluctant, stating, "Let the children be filled first, for it is not good to take the children's bread and throw it to the little dogs." However, the woman's humble and faithful response revealed the wisdom of the Gentiles. She acknowledged that while the Jews had rejected Christ, the Gentiles sought to partake even in the crumbs of his teachings. This humility and faith, she argued, made them worthy of the children's bread. Christ used little dogs. In the Greek language, little dogs are different from the fierce watching dogs. Christ used a gentle word, not a harsh word, in order not to offend the woman, as the Jews believe. That was a way that Christ helped the Phoenician woman to continue the conversation with Christ. Then we have the story of the deaf mute. In the region of Decapolis, a man who was deaf and had an impediment in his speech was brought to Christ. This man, living at the boundary of Decapolis, which means 10 cities, was in need of Christ's healing touch. Christ put his finger in the man's ear, symbolizing the sending of the Holy Spirit to open up the inner ear, to hear the divine voice and to speak God's words. This act signified that the Old Testament and the Ten Commandments alone were not enough to save humanity. Mankind needed the incarnation and salvation of Christ. The evangelist ends his narration of that miracle by saying, "They were astonished beyond measure, saying, 'He has done all things well. He makes both the deaf to hear and the mute to speak.'" Mark 7:37. With the phrase, "He has done all things well," St. Mark takes us back to the beginning of creation, when God created heaven and earth and saw that all was good. God, who has been working from the beginning for the sake of man, is himself, who came to renew humanity and restore to man his joy and his peace. This phrase, "He has done all things well," points out that God of the Old Testament is the same yesterday, today, and tomorrow. In these narratives, we find a profound teaching about purity and holiness. It is not about outward appearance or belonging to a certain group. Instead, it is about the humility, faith, and purity of the heart. It is about being open to hear the divine voice and speak God's words. It is about recognizing that all are worthy of God's love and healing. Let us all memorize these verses together. "There is nothing that enters a man from outside which can defile him, but the things which come out of him, those are the things that defile a man. If anyone has ears to hear, let him hear." Mark 7:15, 16. "And they were astonished beyond measure, saying, 'He has done all things well. He makes both the deaf to hear and the mute to speak.' Mark 7:37.